All right, let's bring in my panel now. Menzies Research Centre's Nick Cater, of course, he's at the Australian as well. And Pauline Hanson's One Nation Chief of Staff, who got a big accolade as a bit of a strategic brain trust a bit earlier there from Andrew Clennell. Take that bow, James Ashby. Let's start with you, if I can, Nick. A carbon tariff, well, that wasn't mentioned at all during the recent election campaign. It made me think of 2010 when Julia Gillard famously said there'll be no carbon tax under a government I lead. I'm starting to wonder whether the 93 seats has gone to Labor's head.
Yeah, well, this was straight out of the blue, wasn't it? Not altogether surprising. This is Labor's game, of course, but you know, this is specifically going to be, I think, on things like concrete and steel that we come from other countries that are, you know, nonetheless, you know, not considered clean and green. So I guess it's to try and make green and steel and green concrete more attractive. But here's the thing, Peter, look, we're putting billions of dollars of subsidies into things like green steel projects, green iron ore, like out of Whyalla. And on top of that, now we've got to put these tariffs in place. Well, you know, I mean, if these things were economical, they'd stand up on their own merits. It's just another example of the multiple ways in which the government is basically using our money to pay for this technology which is unproven at scale.
Yeah, look, to be honest, I'm not interested in green concrete. I'm not interested in green steel until it's green out of China and it's green out of India. I mean, let's get serious. You've got Victoria with a $200 billion debt they can't jump over, a debt that when the government got in, this current Labor government, the debt was about $30 billion. So they're on a hiding to nothing in the state of Victoria, poor old taxpayers. But down there, this is the rollout required to get energy from these renewable sites in the middle of nowhere into urban areas where people can use it. It was said to be, if you look at the state government plans, James Ashby, $4.3 billion, right? $4.3 billion. No, it's closer to $20 billion. This does not even include the Western Renewables Link, the Victoria to New South Wales border, the Interconnector West, the one that I've gone down and sat with farmers who are basically about to lose their land if these pylons come through. I mean, this is a joke.
Yeah, 100%. And to think that we're not capable of producing the steel required for those transmission towers that have got to go up. There's 10,000 kilometres worth of additional power lines and transmission towers that need to go up. We've got two steel mills left in Australia, one of which is in administration, heavily funded by the federal government at this point. So that leaves one that's actually standing on its own 2 feet. How much longer that'll last is beyond me, especially when we've got these safeguard mechanisms put in place where each of those companies are limited to 100,000 tonnes of CO2 emissions before all of a sudden they've got to start paying for carbon credits. And as Nick pointed out, a lot of those towers are going to need a lot of concrete to put in the ground. Again, our cement factories are limited to 100,000 tonnes of carbon dioxide. To put that into perspective, Peter, a large-size house requires around about 100, requires enough concrete that generates 100 tonnes of carbon dioxide. So that's only 1,000 large homes in this country before all of a sudden you've got to start paying up to $25 per carbon credit that gets put on to the end consumer, which is the house builder. And when you put it into those terms, it adds about $2,500 to the average slab of a house. So all of these costs are what are driving the prices up. And it doesn't matter whether it's building homes or putting in these brand new big long transmission lines that at the end of the day are feeding this green agenda that the Albanese government are enforcing on every single one of us.
And we're not even allowed to have the debate. We're not even having the debate in this country about whether or not this is a good thing, right? Whether or not this is a good thing. So you've got 4 new senators now. Let's hope we have that debate and you force everybody's hand, I think, James, because you've been consistently against net zero for some time. Talk to me about China, though. You know, this is interesting. We talk about dams, Nick, and we haven't built a dam in this country of large scale for about 40 years. Beijing's already got the Three Gorges Dam, biggest in the world. Well, they've just announced they're going to put another big one, which will be the biggest near Tibet, and it'll give them as much as 27 times the power that we're going to get out of poor old snowy 2.0.
It just shows what you can do when you get rid of the CFMEU, don't you? In a country without the CFMEU, without green tape, without minimum wages, you know, and no compunction about using slave labour where necessary, they can get this stuff done. That's the thing about it. You know, all these projects around net zero, they're fine for these big autocratic countries where they don't take human rights seriously and they don't actually care about their local environment much. But in a country like Australia, they just become prohibitively expensive. Snowy 2.0, Peter, if you remember, Malcolm Turnbull announced in 2017 that was going to cost us $2 billion and would be finished by 2020.
It's 12 and climbing, Nick. I know. I got to go.
Yeah.
I got to go. It's 12 and climbing. Yeah, we'll probably never see it in our lifetime. Thank you both. That's it for me. Here's Andrew.